Good to be back on the pod, talking a little sports technology.
Yeah, I'm going a little different direction to start off the pod, and we are sports technology. We also have to talk when there are big things that are happening, some big things that have been shaken down, because I'm upset about it, genuinely upset, because they basically call me broke, Sterling, and it's my beloved Delta Airlines.
Mm-hmm.
Not basically, they did call me broke. Yeah. So I'm a Delta rider. And when I say rider, not physically, I mean, not literally, I mean figuratively speaking. I ride for Delta because you know what? I grew up with Delta. I grew up in the biggest hub for Delta. The A on my hat, whenever you look at Truist Park, whenever you used to look at Turner Field, Delta was all around. Why? Because that is honestly the biggest company in the state of Georgia and most prominent worldwide. When you have to do a connection to go international, what you doing? You connecting in Atlanta. What's the biggest complaint you hearing about around the country? I don't know how to navigate the Atlanta airport, but you know how to navigate it when you in an ATL, and I know how to do it with my eyes closed, Sterling. But I'm hurt today because my beloved airline basically said, we don't need your broke coins no more. We don't want you to feel like you got money out in these streets no more. I want you to be who you really are, and that is a broke SOB. That's what they said to me with this new policy that they just came down for the modifications of their Sky Miles and Sky Club access stipulations. I'm sorry. I did I ask you you're okay? Did I say you said you were fine? Sorry, I kind of just dove in. That could be my bad.
Yeah, I'm good. No, you're good. You're good, dude.
Do you want to read it, or do you want me to read what they came down with?
Go ahead.
All right. So Delta, let's give it a month and some change, made some major changes to their Sky Miles frequent flyer program. Basically, and I won't read it word for word, but the way that you can acquire status in today's world. You can do it in two facets. You can have their Amex card, and with their Amex card, there's 3 different levels. You can purchase enough on those cards and then have some one additional qualifier when it comes to whether if that's miles flown with Delta or other qualifying aspects of Delta purchases to be able to then qualify for status. But hitting one of those marks, say if you did make the purchases mark, that would still allow you underneath the card under the current structure to be able to be a Sky Miles member. So what they're doing now is it's basically in this world of AI and algorithms, they've developed an algorithm to bring in these 4 criteria that allow you to gain status in the current structure and put them all as to one. But the dollar that you spent yesterday will not be worth the dollar that you will have in the coming year. So basically, it is making it
price is not yesterday's price.
Hit him with the line. Hit him with it one more time, Sterling.
Today's price is not yesterday's price.
And that's what they're telling me. They're saying my money ain't good enough. They're saying the dollars that I spend on my Amex card, it don't matter because I'm not out here spending it just strictly on Delta or using the Delta vacations packages to roll through everything Delta to make them more money. I'm spending my money the way I want to spend my money. And then I have your dedicated card, but I can't be up in these lounges. So basically, if you have a card and depending on the status of that card, there are 3 tiers. They have the gold, silver, and your reserve purple card. The silver, it is I could be butchering it, but is it half? So for every dollar you spend, or $2 you spend, you only get $1 that is recognized, or is it 50 cents recognized off of that? And I think it's $1. It's half of whatever you spend on purple on your reserve card. Yeah. It's making it basically it like 3 times harder now to fly and have status. Because the biggest thing with having status. And this is what I want, hopefully, not like Delta execs are listening, but I know they are listening because we have the #1 sports tech podcast in my mind. But the reason that this hurts is because in today's world, you want to extract the most value that you can when it comes to some type of loyalty rewards program because you're spending money, but I want to spend money in a way that comes back to me with some type of value, whether if it's personally or for your own family's sake. So whether if you have a hotel card linked to your account, whether if you have some type of airline carrier, you want to have something that is represented in a fair way for you to be able to gain some type of status if you travel enough with them, so that you can then gain the perks that you're looking for when it comes to having an ease of travel, having better customer service when you are traveling, if you have family and kids, and that's your biggest concern, going into hotels, going into the airport, because it's a stressful time frame. And when you're able to have the reliability of knowing when something goes wrong, I think that's really the biggest thing, is when something goes wrong, you know that you will have the service tailored towards you to be able to solve the issue that you have. And I think by twisting this to not allow people to have that, and I think that's where people find a lot of comfort, because when you see when something goes wrong, take for instance, Southwest had their computers down, everybody's in those really long lines. Now you're like, I am a valued member, I know I should be taken care of. Not like I want to automatically leapfrog the 300 people that are in line, but I do expect with what I have with you that you're going to have my back in cases of catastrophe. Mm-hmm. And now Delta is telling me, they're basically saying, you make just enough money to not be broke, is what you're basically telling me. You're putting me in the full broke category. I'm not a high income earner. I'm a medium income earner. I do all right out here, Sterling. I ain't gonna toot my own horn. I ain't gonna put my government financials out there because I don't need nobody coming asking me for money. But Mac is doing okay, God willing. Let me knock on some wood as well. But Delta is telling me, you ain't doing enough for us. Your money ain't that good. You can spend as much as you want with your card, but you're only going to get about a third of that in return when it comes to Skymiles points with us. And I say, shame on you. Shame on you, Delta. Shame on the capitalist society that we've turned into, because I understand at the end of the day, what are you and I, Sterling? We are a mark on an Excel spreadsheet. That hurts, doesn't it? Does that hit hard? Does that hit you hard? You are a mark on an Excel spreadsheet.
Yeah.
That is all you matter to corporations, because at the end of the day, it is the bottom dollar. How can they maximize for their shareholders? I get it, but it's twofold. And we talked about this on our former podcast. Sports teams have found out about it. If you forget about the consumer, you're going to lose your way as an organization. Oh, I feel like I'm in the pulpit right now. Let me say that one more time. If you forget about the consumer, your fans, your fan base, your loyalty members, you're going to lose your way as an organization.
Yeah.
And I think Delta is finding out about that through a lot of emails, a lot of angry letters. And I understand from one standpoint, flying in these programs or having the perks, being able to get in like the sky clubs or the lounges that you see for these airlines, because mainly that's where you see them. There is a specialty air about it, because it's a lot that goes into that, and I get that. You have free food, you have people that take advantage of the system and going in there down in 50 drinks because I can get it for free and not tipping the bartender like you should, or just going in there gorging yourself on food, taking up space, and all of that costs to Delta, or American Airlines has their own program. I understand that. But when you don't treat your customer with that same type of respect that they're looking for, especially when you're coming into their lounges, into their areas, you're going to see a mass exodus in disappointed Skymiles, now probably formerly Skymiles members. So I hope, and I know the CEO came out and said maybe we went a little too far with the changes. You can dive into it with a quick Google search if you want to go through the exact changes. I kind of gave you by paraphrasing, a high-level outlook into what has changed. But the modifications are truly drastic. And my fear is that you're going to see corporations follow suit, because Delta has gotten away with, through the pandemic, having 3x ticket prices to their competitors, but knowing people are going to pay for it because Delta provides you that grade A service for the most part. And you're able to get away with a lot of it because you did get that coverage and service. You did feel like Delta was a step above the other domestic carriers. But now, I mean, shoot, Mac's about to be a free agent out here. I can't pay for $600 when the competitor out here, I'm going to say either Southwest, American Airlines, United, I don't know. But they all got lower prices than Delta, are charging $200 to their $600 for a 2 hour, maybe hour 45 flight. It ain't right. In the words of Chris Rock, it ain't right. Head of state.
Yeah, I didn't know where that was from. There's a lot to this, I think. On one side, I think what Delta realized is because during the pandemic, right, they were like, how do we influence people to travel again? So they already had the partnership with Amex, and they had the Delta Amex cards where they're like, hey, if you get these certain cards, you now get access to our lounges, you get extra points, you get extra status, like tour, or you can work towards like you're getting a medallion status, all those type of things, right? Mm-hmm. And people people in the pandemic and came out of the pandemic were like, well, shit, why not? I'll pay $450 in an annual amount. I'll pay $650 in an annual amount, especially to be able to your point, when I fly. The thing with Delta, right, is you feel like you are kind of a step above. It is a really nice airline to fly. Mm-hmm. You feel like the service is exceptional for the most part, right? Mm-hmm. Their lounges are really nice. And so people were like, yeah, I'll pay that credit, that $450 annual fee, $650 annual fee, and get some of these perks that I've never had before, right? I think Delta then realize this, and they probably received some feedback from people that have been flying Delta for a long time. And
there's a little bit too much spirit energy in these lounges, Delta. Right. I'm going to need you guys to switch this up a little bit. Which, first off, don't call me spirit energy when I walk in there with my hoodie, Mr. Business Traveler with 1,000,000 miles. But I don't want to cut you off. Sorry.
No, but that's the thing, right? I think they're trying to find a balance of, because Delta is for the affluent traveler who takes vacations constantly, and for the business traveler. That's what you assume when you're kind of like on a Delta flight, right? Is that's who you're around, I think.
Yeah.
And Delta's looking at this of how do we find now, to your point, they're walking this back. So I think they're trying to find a middle ground. I think when they rolled out these new changes, they were like, all right, we got to cater to like who is our true Delta customer, right?
Right.
Who's really spending money on Delta flights, not taking, 2 flights a year, right? And then utilizing space in the lounge and all that type of stuff, right? Like who's really like a Delta member, a Delta Skymiles member, and a Delta customer. So I think that's where it gets a little interesting of like what they've done. I agree with you. I think they probably already lost some customers because some people are like, all right, well, I can probably change my credit card and go like to the Chase Inc. or maybe a different tier in Amex,
right?
And then go to and change up, right? The tough thing is if you built up a ton of miles and now you're stuck, right? But if if you're under like 15,000 miles, there's no reason why you have to stay with Delta, right? And so I think it'll be interesting. I had switched a long time ago, right? Like I'm not a Delta Amex. I have an Amex, but not a Delta Amex. And I'm an American person, and I feel great about that because I think what's happened too, because to your point, back to that air that people get, you want to have this weird, I don't know what's happened in society, right? I don't know if it's Instagram or whatever, but there's this weird flex that everyone has to do, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. You'll walk by that medallion club or medallion lounge and the line is out the door. And you're like, no, not just the Sky Club, like the Amex Medallion Club.
Oh, Centurion Lounge.
Or Centurion Lounge, sorry. And the line is like, especially in certain airports, like the line is like, wrapped around like the corner or whatever, right? It's like 30 people deep.
Yeah.
And it's this weird air that people have to have. It's like, I have to be in the lounge. I got to be in this lounge to do this. And like, it's like, or you could just, you can grab a drink at the normal bar, right? And
just go to TGI Fridays or Applebee's.
That's what I'm saying. Like, and I'm I love being in the lounge. I get it. I can be a little bougie about it, but we've gotten to this weird place where, like, to your point, Delta knew that people were going to continue to pay it, continue to do these things. So